Welcome back, everybody. This is our next installment of our developer update. I think we were last together, Jason, on this recording in April with Radovich.
What number podcast is this?
I think we're up to like number 6 or 7.
Getting there.
Do you have one that's been your favorite?
I don't think so. I'm gonna say no.
Got it. Well, they've all been well received, and I feel like each one is just full of nuggets of good info, and hopefully we'll continue that trend with this one. So I'm calling this one kind of the global market update, because this past quarter has probably been a little bit unique, or maybe not, but that might be a good segue to start to just say, what's the last quarter look like for Jasper EcoDev?
The last quarter is a continuation of really it's been a continuation in my mind of the recession with no name. For the last almost 3 years, the new home market has been in recession as far as I'm concerned, due to a spike to mortgage rates that hit a 40-year high. The rates tie into the ability for buyers to purchase homes, but also the confidence for buyers who have the means to buy the home. It creates indecision in their mind, and as a result of that, what we see is the absorption has slowed down and stayed down. And really, the last 3 weeks, finally, we've seen an uptick in sales, and I'll get into the detail there, but overall, the last quarter was a continuation of just fighting through, I'm going to call it the mortgage rate recession in our space. And we really didn't see improvement until the last week of that quarter. So what's going on in the market? Generally speaking, nationally, used homes are listings are up 30 to 35%. Which is tracking, our market's tracking, and Arizona's market's tracking along those same lines. It's a couple points lower here in Arizona and in Yavapai County. The thing I find interesting is a couple of things. One, rates started to approach 6.5. That's mortgage rates, and that clearly triggered buying activity. That buying activity then triggers the sale of new homes, because as someone with a used home can sell their house, they can get their equity out and either pay cash, have a very heavy down payment, or they're comfortable with the difference between, let's say, a 3.5% mortgage and a 6.5% mortgage approximately. So that's positive in our space. The real interesting part to me is from a historical perspective, as we see listed inventory increase, what we generally see is time on market increase along with it. As there's more houses available for sale, it takes longer for those houses to clear the market to be sold. Actually, the opposite is happening. So nationally, we're seeing about 60 days on market, and locally we're seeing about 50 days on market. So more houses are coming to market. Those houses are selling quicker. And so someone might say, well, why? My answer would be there's pent up demand from the recession, where people basically were stuck. They had low mortgage rates. They didn't want to afford or could not afford to move, to upgrade. And it's a weird phenomenon in the United States, right? We like new things. We're consumers. 75% of our GDP is consumer spending. Well, does it really make sense? I don't know. You might have 52 pairs of shoes. Picking on you, I'll pick on Benny later. But we like to buy new things.
Right.
We're not disciplined culturally. We make money to spend money, generally speaking. And so that benefits us in development and new home construction and sales, because the average person's going to stay in their house for about 7 years nationally. and they get itchy and they want to move on and they want to buy a new house. So it's a semi-interesting time. The big question in my mind is this: if the trend continues, we know that the Trump administration is trying to puff up the economy. And so it makes sense that we're on the front end of a new trend, and that trend should gain momentum and continue. Will there be a kind of a trough on the value of used homes? If there's a bunch of used homes for sale, generally speaking, someone is going to get a deal. Mm-hmm. Simple supply and demand, Econ 101. I think that the answer is going to be yes to a certain extent. But I think that what the buyers are going to find out is that if they're looking to upgrade to a new home, the new home builders, developers that survived the Great Recession had to learn how to be disciplined. And that means that our inventory levels are not, they're a bit high, but one good month could put us back in balance. So buyers out there, people that are listening to this stuff, maybe their sister or their brother or their mother or someone's going to move into this marketplace, right? What I anticipate after 27 years here, based on definitely understanding what's available in the market, not just what's available in Jasper, is that there's some decent deals out there right now. Depending on the builder, depending on the project, there's a handful of decent deals that are going to go to people. Beyond that, what will start to happen is as momentum builds, the decent deals start to go away because now we need to reload. We need to build more houses. We're in good shape lot-wise, but we need to build more houses to service the demand. Well, when we start to get low on supply and we start to build houses, unfortunately in our business, we have a long lead time. Mm-hmm. It's going to take 6 months to get those new houses back out curbside and ready for sale. And so generally speaking, what the builder does is raise prices. So it's a long explanation to say, the last quarter, the last 3 years have been tough. We've persevered. We've continued to build ahead of our builders as it relates to finished lots. We're in good shape that way. But where I feel we could be out of balance quickly, like September, would be on the available standing new home side of things. So probably what we have coming at us is a market that will be primarily pre-sold homes.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's going in that direction.
I don't think it can go anywhere else. If there's momentum in the marketplace, we just don't have the specs in the ground to be able to service the demand. And so the only available option to a buyer will be a pre-sold. Mm-hmm. Now, some people look at that and say, that's great.
Right.
I get to pick out my own house. I get to pick out my own finishes. I've got time. I don't care. We'll lose other sales because folks will be like,
now.
They will have already sold. Mm-hmm. They'll have their money and they'll need to either, buy something existing or rent if they're going to be in this market, or they'll go to a different market. Mm-hmm. I think the other thing that's really going to benefit us moving forward is the I-17 improvements. I drove this week on Monday for the first time and used the flex lanes, and I arrived in Phoenix 35 minutes earlier than I thought that I was going to. And it is summer, so there isn't a whole lot of traffic down there in comparison to winter. But there is I think it's a solid 15 to 20 minute improvement in a commute time to get in and out of the valley. And that's important to people that have jobs in the valley that live up here, or folks that, older folks that are moving up here, but their children and their grandchildren are still down in the valley. It's just going to be much more convenient to get in and out of Metro Phoenix.
Yeah, way more accessible. I appreciate your acknowledgement too of while this last quarter has been an indication of the recession with no name, it doesn't feel like it's been that different from the last 3 years to some degree, because you're still kind of just waiting it out. And how is that impacting timing? And I know you do a lot in terms of anticipation, right? That's pretty much everything that you're always thinking about.
Yes.
How do you anticipate when you're also managing, kind of maintaining, and how does that impact timing?
So my job is to try to stay 5 years ahead of the company, right? And so when we talk about anticipation, what I'm working on is entitlements, permits, financials, deal structures to get us the inventory we think we need over the next year, 3 and 5 years. And so that part of things I really enjoy. The hard part is managing when you get into a recession and you have to start managing it. It's a progression. You get away from managing cash flow from a month to month basis. You can't just make decisions, set the course, and walk away. You end up then it's every 2 weeks, then it's every week, and I'm going to say for the last 6 to 8 months, cash flow for the company has been touched in a significant way 2 or 3 times per week. And so that's just simply experience screwing up and losing projects and basically almost going broke as close as you can get and not go broke. In my past, I just know that it takes focus and energy and attention that is very, you have to be rigorous, or otherwise things get away from you. You make mistakes. Those mistakes have very serious consequences when times are tight. When times are good and you have some fat on you, well, you can absorb those mistakes. You know, that it's just not as hard to keep the company on course, and you can kind of shrug your shoulders and go, that's okay. Well, it'll work out over the course of the year. But when you're managing week to week, it gets tight. Fundamentally, our company, because of Stuart Swanson, who's been on the podcast, we have a huge advantage in that his personal wealth backstops our financial structures. That is an incredible luxury for a guy who's been in this market for 27 years, and during the Great Recession was, I was broke for 5 years, right? I had $1,500 in my money market account for 9 months. That was it after I sold everything, and I still owed millions of dollars. So it's I guess it's something I never take lightly. I value it highly that we have our sponsor, if you will, is committed, number one, because that's hard to do. And number two, he has the means to be able to absorb some punishment and not change the business plan. We still have the table set for a future that will be very bright. It's always about timing in a highly cyclical market space. And that's what we do every day.
How have those conversations with Stuart been as you've been keeping him kind of apprised of what's happening locally?
I think that the biggest thing with Stuart is what he's looking for, the positive trends. And so that then takes us back into selling houses. And so over the last 3 weeks, we've definitely seen an uptick in the sale of homes. And so, excuse me, as that trend continues to play out, confidence builds rapidly. And that confidence will then be momentum. And so because of Stuart's experience in business, generally speaking, and now we're in the 15th year of AED, he has plenty of experience in real estate. He just didn't start in real estate. And so, he's definitely comfortable with the rhythm of, the boom and bust cycles that we deal with in development. And so I'll point at phase 5 that's now under construction. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't have completed phase 3,
right,
if not for Stuart. And the bank stepped up for phase 5. So the risk there is, of course, that someone has to guarantee those loans. And so, Stuart has not shied away from setting the table of our future. And specifically what we're doing in Jasper, phase 3 is very nice lots with permanent open space to the south, permanent views to the north. Obviously, we got Jasper Parkway completed and opened. Phase 5 would be more of a mid-market type product. It's a lower price point coming for sure. We think, based on the progress of the phase, that we should be able to start models in October. And so what we're trying to do is have as many product types available so that when someone comes and looks at Jasper, they have choice.
Right.
That's the game. But to create choice costs tens of millions of dollars in this business. So we're very fortunate to have Stuart, and the support of M&T Bank has been very good too.
Right. Speaking of timing and bringing eco into Jasper in this last quarter, right, with them opening in phase 3, how has that landed? What's the overall impression? Does it seem to be well received? I mean, I hear you speaking to the last couple of weeks and building momentum, but I'm curious overall, given this is what eco's second storefront in the market, how is that landing?
So I guess we should make a clarification. And when we talk phase 3 here in this building, it's Jasper 8.
Correct.
Yeah. J8 on the street. So we have inked 3 deals to date. It's always very difficult when you open a new phase. It doesn't matter if it's the cheapest price point in the marketplace or the most expensive. People are leery of new, just natural. And so we've got our first 3 contracts signed in J8, and we've had great visitation, really. And I guess I walk that back a little bit. I'll call it really good. We've been averaging about 56 visits per week through the models, and I would say great would be something more like 75. So 56 per week is dead solid, and frankly, it's a numbers game. From a traditional perspective, there's a conversion rate of about 10%. So if we're seeing 56 people a week, we think that we'll see 5 or 6 contracts over the course of time. And the question is always, what's the course of time? And that's variable. And so we refer to that as the bicycle. And when people are confused and the macro markets are moving around, the bicycle stretches out. Someone will come visit more often before they sign a contract. When there's momentum in the marketplace, on our side, meaning the selling side, people might sign on their first trip. And so what we're seeing, and it ties back into those days on market in the used inventory, we're getting plenty of visitation. We're seeing the buy cycle starting to crunch down. And so it is possible, because frankly, June and July are historically horrible months, like right there with January. Those are the 3 worst months of the year. And we had a very good June. We have a real nice start to July. August tends to, especially the second half of August, the start of the fall selling season comes, and we're in great position for that. And so then, do we see a mini run in September, October, November? There's plenty of data that points to that possibility. After 3 years of getting beat up, we're not assuming anything.
Right.
I look at it as kind of a false start, right? Until it's proven otherwise. And so if we get to the end of this month over at Skyview, which is the first point of sale that Eco opened, we had 5 sales last month. We've had 3 sales so far to date, 3 in J8 here. If we could end with 5 or 6 per project, that would be a bang up July from a historical perspective. We would be very excited to see what happens in October and September. If we get to September and we see the trend continuing to grow, I'll start to trust it.
I don't envy being in Dave Bullock's shoes probably right now.
It's just hard, because what happens is you just get frustrated.
Right.
There can be boredom that sets in. There can be frustration that sets in. And so when you have momentum in the marketplace, it's just much easier to come to work every day, right? Because you feel good about yourself and you're getting stuff done on a weekly basis. When you have generally what I would describe the last 3 years as a form of a malaise, people are I'm confused. I'm scared. Lenders, same thing. Everybody's just kind of waiting around to get a signal. Is it going to be a recession? Is it not good? Is it going to be a soft landing? You end up with all these questions that can't be answered, frankly.
Yeah.
The questions get answered over the course of time. Presently, what it looks like is we catch a soft landing. For the probably average listener out there, there's lots of talk now about the federal funds rate being reduced in the September meeting. That has nothing to do with the 30-year mortgage rate.
Right.
Our world is ruled by the 30-year mortgage rate, and that rate is set by the spread over what 10-year T-bills were sold for at auction this week. And so right now, 6 3/4 probably on average out there. I don't know where Wells Fargo's at today. What's going on there historically, it's about a 1.5. It's referred to as basis point or bips, but 1.5% increase over the 10-year treasury rate. That would be a historical spread. Lately, that spread's running more like 2.5 to 3. And so what's going on there? Well, investors are nervous too, right? So they're saying, hey, we'll offer you this money. This is very, very, this is the heart of the matter and very simple. It doesn't work this easily, but we'll make the loan, but we're going to charge you a premium because we don't know where the market's going.
Right.
So if I'm going to take my cash and I'm going to put it out, I'm going to get paid for it. That's the basic summary. And so what is the federal government doing? Jerome Powell was on Capitol Hill, I think 3 weeks ago, and was eviscerated in 2 days of hearings. Like it wasn't Republican or Democrat. It wasn't areas of the country. Everybody is yelling at him saying, get the freaking rates down. Well, unfortunately, our elected officials don't all understand how it works because Jerome and his rate don't have anything to do with our rate, so to speak. Now, it helps us with our debt and our cost of capital. So that would be nice. But what really makes our market go is the 30-year mortgage rate. And so what on a deep dive, what our understanding is the federal government is loosening up the liquidity requirements for the commercial banks. That all grew out of the Great Recession, and the banks need to keep more cash. And so the Trump administration is saying, hey, we're going to loosen up these requirements for you banks, but you're going to use a chunk of this liquidity that we're going to create by changing the rules to buy 10-year treasuries and get that rate down. And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
For sure.
Is that a Band-Aid? I'm going to tell you it probably is. How did we get to such cheap rates coming out of the Great Recession? Quantitative easing and the federal government printing dollars to buy its own debt. So it was that period of time where rates fell even below 3%. There's no reason to think that we're ever going to see that again in our life. So from a historical perspective, if you look at a 6% rate for mortgage, that's good money.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No. And so every time we get close to 6, which has happened 3 times in the last 3 years, we get a little run. Well, here we are with the third run, and it started. Where will it go? Yeah. What happens with tariffs and the dollar strengthening or weakening? And I mean, there's so many inputs that affect, I would just say, the psychology of the market. It's impossible to dope it. Everybody's gambling, right? It's the ultimate casino.
Yeah. Well, even in the uncertainty, it sounds like both Eco and Capstone, as it relates to phase 3, are both in position. I think, if I understood correctly, the timing for Capstone opening in J8 is like August 15th. So it sounds like everything's in position, and hearing you kind of speak to the uptick of the buying season sounds like it'll be good timing getting into that kind of fall cycle.
If we can gain some momentum here, it'll be perfect timing.
And even while we haven't gained momentum, it's not like you haven't still had to write checks, right? I'm looking at the dog park that got completed. So that's one of the areas that I know, you all as Jasper Eco Dev, it says we're going to make this right and make this project happen. So I think ultimately all the residents, if they could give you a hug, Jason, probably would, because that's been a huge benefit to the community. I think some of the other projects too coming into fruition, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know our residents love to hear about phase 1 landscape repair too. So
Sure.
Sounds like that's moving too.
Plants are ordered. I don't know the timing for install because the landscaper doesn't know the timing for receipt of those plants. But we're waiting for the plants to show up so those repairs can be made and that project can be finished, which frankly took too long. I have no problem saying that. Why? Back to the recession with no name. Cash got tight. Everybody's free cash went into the projects in order to keep all the boats afloat, so to speak. And so that problem will be rectified. And sooner versus later. The dog park obviously was an easy decision. Unfortunate that we had to pump money into something that in essence was new, but it didn't work. We've bulletproofed that amenity now. We hope that we don't really have to touch it for 20 years. I don't know if we will or not. We'll find out. And tying into the money, it's not just building the lots and investing in a builder. It's our projection for breaking the HOA even was 650 occupied dwellings.
Yeah.
We're running about 460.
Correct.
And so we're gaining on it, but we have there's a lag here where because the last few years have not been so good, the move-ins haven't happened at the same rate. Are we going the right way? The answer is yes. Do we see that in our numbers? We do. Is 650 going to actually be the break even? I don't know. I know this. You get to break even, and people want to lower their dues. So we'll just go ahead and preemptively talk about that. From at this point, we're not in a position for that. It is never our goal to try to make the dues higher than they need to be.
Right.
And so, with time, I don't know what that means. We could 2 years from now, it's probably has taken care of itself and we're at break even, whether the number's 650 or not. We'll find out together.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah. One of the other areas too, maybe happening behind the scenes that residents aren't seeing where some of the capital is currently being invested. I know the lawns are getting some extra attention too. It's been one of your favorite topics. I know you've mentioned in previous podcasts is the grass, both on Jasper Drive as well as the lawns up here at J Club. Any updates you want to share from your lens on that, Jason, or kind of what you're watching or observing?
Sure. First of all, Stuart's going to have to order me to put like real grass in any kind of bulk, large scale. In the future, splashing some grass into a landscape, that's fine. Beyond that, I mean, it's just too hard here. We don't get enough rain. Our soils conditions aren't good, and the wind blows. So, Benny's laughing. The artificial stuff costs more on the front end. It's a lot cheaper on the back end.
Right.
And so we tried it, and people have heard me say this before, this is all kind of a big experiment, and we get better as we learn on the job. And so moving forward, I would still like to shrink the grass. And so we're trying. I'm going to tell you this is the last ditch effort, right? So we have a golf course superintendent for 25 years, probably the number one in Northern Arizona, Andy Huber, who is a wonderful guy. And Andy is helping us with our amendments to try to get our grass to work better. And if those efforts fail, then I'm going to go back to shrinking grass in Jasper.
I think that's fair. Switching gears a little bit, but you mentioned kind of phase 5, and it feels like that quickly took off. And I mean, Rumco's here now, right? Actively moving dirt and getting lots prepared. So do you want to kind of update residents on where that stands? And my other question, Jason, is do you have an update on Alcoma? Because people get really excited about roadways and connectivity as well.
So Rumco comes in with their mining equipment and they just crush things and our draws go through the roof. I mean, and for those that don't understand, that means what we owe on a monthly basis because the projects get done. Phase 5 is relatively simple compared to really any other phase that we've built. And so the timelines to get to finished lots are shorter, just easier to build. Frankly, the cost is much less too. It's the cheapest phase we've ever had to build yet. And part of that, because you've asked about Alcoma, we're almost through with our off-site contractual obligations in our development agreement to the town of Prescott Valley. So what ends up happening is we'll deliver lots, quicker and cheaper as time goes on. Problem with that is we're still in the market, and more than anything else in development, that means oil. It's the diesel in the machines, it's the oil in the streets, it's the oil in all the pipes. They're just the conduit. I mean, there's just oil all the way through a subdivision, which most people probably wouldn't actually think about. So we'll see what the price of oil does if oil's down, and if the market is not hot, then we get better deals, plain and simple. So phase 5 likely is completed before Christmas. I mean, I think we're probably signed off. And so, that, I don't know how that compares to the other 3 phases we've built.
Feels quick.
Really quick.
Yeah.
Like a third of the time. And so that's fun and that's nice. Of course, along with that, the price point is lower. That's good. I haven't been out there yet to understand what the view shed kind of looks like. It's flatter there, right? We're not building on the side of a hill, so it's cheaper and faster and easier. You probably don't have as much character. But price point is going to be, I think it's safe to say, drastically different than what it is in Jasper 8.
Right.
So that's all positive. Alcoma, correct me if I'm wrong, Benny, but I don't think we finish Alcoma until we do the second half of phase 5, meaning the finished lots.
Phase 6, actually.
So phase 6. So what we're doing is we had to bring the utilities up the Alcoma right of way. Kind of put in some temporary drainage and stuff so we don't, we get microbursts and there'll be problems, and especially when we're under construction, there'll be stuff we have to fix. It's just the way it goes. So moving forward, if phase 5 goes quickly, then the re-up will be in phase 6, and that's when we'll finish Alcoma.
Gotcha.
So basic rules for subdivision are 2 forms of ingress and egress. Obviously, for the first 2 phases, we were not required to have a secondary form of I&E. The second connection came with Jasper Parkway's completion. And so Alcoma will be our third access point in and out of Jasper. Great for dispersing traffic, and obviously if there's some kind of an emergency, it matters. And then for a long time, presumptively, although we do have some plans to accelerate, we'll see how it goes, Jasper Parkway through the north end of Jasper and over to the Prescott municipal boundary, where Jasper Parkway would be called Dells Ranch Road, I believe.
Yep.
That'll be our 4th connection that we'll make in Jasper over the course of time. So, people always want me to guess on timing, and it goes back to these last 3 years. I mean, people planning God laughs is the saying, right? And so it's all market dependent. If things move quickly,
right,
and we're selling houses, then we're going to build lots faster. If houses are selling slowly, then we slow down how quickly we deliver finished lots.
The connectivity with Dells Ranch Road and Jasper Parkway, that also includes Stillwell too, and the completion of Stillwell and its connectivity to Jasper Parkway and then into Dells Ranch. I might be
Stillwell kind of
that.
runs parallel to Jasper, yes. I would call it kind of internal. Our main arterial is Jasper, south and north, and Stillwell, probably relieves local, meaning inside Jasper traffic.
Alleviates a little internal.
Yeah, because it disperses how people and changes their movement patterns.
And good segue into my next question on traffic impact study and Jasper Parkway. It feels like we see cars zipping down that road pretty consistently. And I know Town of Prescott Valley is kind of measuring that right now. Anything you want to say in terms of what you're seeing with the overall traffic pattern changes?
We've seen what we expected to see, which was a spike of cut-through traffic. So if you live in Prescott Ridge and you know about Jasper Parkway, and you're heading to Costco, why would you drive down Glassford Hill Road except for to Granville, cut through Jasper, cut through the park,
Yeah,
and pop out at Highway 69. And so it's always a funny thing. People complain no matter what. So they will complain if you can't get in and out, just like they will complain and say, well, Marlo's cutting through my neighborhood.
which I do.
Yeah.
To avoid
Well, you're
Glassford Hill
allowed to.
Road.
So the fundamentals here are we have public streets in Jasper, not private. And the benefit, there's always a plus and a minus. The benefit to a Jasper resident is that the long-term maintenance and repair of those streets is the responsibility of the Town of Prescott Valley. So they have all the Prescott Valley residents in a pot to help pay for that stuff. Versus a gated community, we'll take the other extreme, with private streets where the HOA dues would be much higher because we would be impounding to resurface, streets every, basically oil them, seal them every 5 years, chip seal them every 10 years, and mill and fill them every 20 years. And so there's millions of dollars worth of repair and maintenance that goes into keeping a municipality's street system very in good maintenance.
Right.
And people don't realize things like I can remember, this was a long time ago now, but I was on the Yes for Streets campaign in Prescott, and at that point Prescott had 507 lane miles, and I'm going to say that was 15 to 20 years ago.
Wow.
So there's not 507 lane miles in Prescott anymore, and I have no clue what that total is in Prescott Valley. But people tend to kind of have the blinders on, right? They look at like their block, their development, maybe their area of town. These are very municipal government it's a very large business, and so I'm gonna guess on PV because they don't have fire, they have police. Maybe $125 million a year. And, I know because the pamphlet I live in Prescott, and the voter pamphlet just came out, and the estimated budget fiscal year is for both places is July 1. But the fiscal budget for 2026, which is started in Prescott, is just barely over $240 million.
Wow.
So when people think about like, who am I going to vote for council, to make $500 or $600 a month, what you basically have is a board of directors making decisions for a business that does $125 to $240 million a year gross revenue.
It's important consideration.
Well, I mean, education and people don't tend to educate themselves, especially when they move into a community.
Right.
I'll pick on you. You've got a pet project and you want bike lanes all over central Yavapai County. Yeah, we love Marlo. Well, what has Marlo done to be qualified to run or participate in running a business of that scale? Since I'm picking on you, the answer is nothing.
Right.
Well, nobody ever thinks about this.
Right.
Until in hindsight. And so during the course of my career, what happens with new politicians, they get elected, they get indoctrinated, and they go, holy cow, I had no clue. They don't even know.
Right.
And some of them shag, right? They don't want no part of it. Others, will get educated and they'll go on to be good leaders in our communities. But this is my elevator speech for when, I get quite a few calls like, hey, who should I vote for? Well, here's why you'd vote for Marlo or why you wouldn't, but people very seldom think about the financial ramifications of that vote and the results of those elections. It matters. And as these areas grow, I'm sure there'll be people listening to this, they'll probably complain. Right? If we had like a real podcast, we'd be getting texts right now,
Yeah, they could be
like
calling
hate
in.
mail, right? Like, I can't believe you think this place is going to grow. Well, obviously we know what I do for a living, right? No one has to be confused. And so the growth that's going to occur is primarily going to happen in projects that were approved, like Jasper. My memory recall is Jasper was approved in like 2014. We didn't start construction on the first phase until late 17. Now we're in 2025 and we're talking about 460 plus or minus residents. This stuff takes a long time.
Right.
There's water constraints, there's roads and infrastructure and money and sales tax, and there's so much that goes into this stuff that politically what we're definitely seeing is pushback against growth. Kind of across the board in the West, and it's even growing in the Southeast and the Northeast, and meaning the country. People don't want it. Okay, well, right now the home supply is estimated to be behind by about 1.5 million units per year. We don't want growth, but we want affordable housing. You can't have both. I mean, it's a simple answer. You got to pick it. And so then what rational people would say is, okay, so where's the middle path? What kind of housing do we actually need?
Right.
Do we need more gated mansions? She said no, folks.
I said no.
That's my opinion. You need smaller, more affordable houses. You need houses that people can rent.
Right.
I lived in a fourplex. That was my first dwelling out after I was done with the apartment in college. Bought my first house for $256,000. Same house today is probably $550,000. That'd be my guess. I'm aging myself here, but I'm guessing. And I'm gonna tell you, I moved here in 95, probably 97. I bought that house.
You need Tammy on the next podcast. That would be fun.
Yeah,
Jason's wife.
it would get interesting. The perspective would be totally different. But back to it, we moving forward, we're going to grow. Our area is going to grow. It does not grow at the explosive rates that some people advertise. That's fake news. It grows at 1.5% to 3% per year, really. Moving forward, that means roads, water infrastructure, what the use of water, hot button issue, always has been as long as I've been here. There are regulators or caps on growth and what can happen beyond the political bent of the people that are serving in a lot of the council seats presently and pushing red or green buttons, yes or no. And it's democracy, right? It's supposed to be a little messy. That's okay. But as we move forward into our future in Jasper, I don't know how much more growth there's going to be in the town of Prescott Valley. I'm not aware of projects getting approved.
Right.
Obviously, Fain Signature Group had a project approved that was quickly put on, there is no ballot yet, but it will be on the fall 2026 Prescott Valley ballot. That the approval of the council was referred by petitions, which is a constitutional right in the state of Arizona. And so, how much more is there going to be? I think you could count up the I guess Prescott Valley, the right term is preliminary development plans. And my best guess is what you could count up this week is about what it's going to be in 20 or 30 years.
So let me just recap. We talked about pending recession, really slow market, and growth opposition. So what keeps you doing this work year after year, day after day? Because it's, from what I'm hearing, it's like, man, it every day is a new challenge.
Where I'm lucky is I'm excited to go to work most of the time. And most of the time would be 90% of the time. Why? It's very dynamic. It's very challenging and hard. Very few people can actually do it. And I love real estate. Like I'm a real estate geek, right? Like I love it. And so the dynamic nature of it has to do with some of the things that you just ticked off and I ticked off. You know, you have political processes that are somewhere between challenging and difficult in today's age. Jasper, not one resident of the town of Prescott Valley was at the meetings. Mm-hmm. The council was. We had a site visit before the vote. Whole council comes out. Council and staff. That's it. Mm. Totally different political environment that we find ourselves in today. Mm-hmm. Water. I could go on for an hour and a half on water and everybody would go to sleep. Financing, capital markets, what's available, what's not. When I started my career, it was pretty easy to get debt to get into business. Now it's nearly impossible. Like the tippy top of the pyramid gets financed. Basically, the banks lend to people that don't need loans. That's who gets financed. And so there's a myriad of other things that go into a master plan community like Jasper. And so what's fun for me and the reason that I do it, I was just intrigued by it. The level of complication, the Rubik's Cube, so to speak, to get things to line up, multiple sides of the Rubik's Cube, have to line up in order to finish the project. It's just hard. And at the end of the day, it's my dad's off the farm, and kind of love of the land, I think, is in my genetics. And I'm sure there's someone listening that goes, well, golly, he's a Benedict Arnold. He loves the land, so he destroys it, right? Because that's an opinion too. We're sitting on land right now that used to have a lot of antelope on it. Mm-hmm. Now has a lot of people. Both naturally occurring species on the face of the earth.
True.
There's got to be houses for everybody and everything. Mm-hmm. And so people can disagree with me, and I can disagree with them. That's very normal, natural, and good. Mm-hmm. But it's every action has, I don't know if it's an equal and opposite reaction, like they taught us in physics in high school, but nothing's for free. That's for sure. And so, we do the best we can. And we'll be criticized by some, and others will applaud our efforts. And that's just the way it goes. Can't worry about it.
Well, I think we can close out on a positive too, just thinking about the activity over the last quarter at the club and what you've been seeing or observing as it relates to kind of programming. And generally speaking, people seem happy to be here. They seem active. They're using the amenities. I'm curious if that's kind of your take on it too. And, where do you see maturity for the clubhouse going in the next year or two as it relates to some of the offerings, and even as we look at Superb too?
Well, we're learning on the job, right? And so everybody knows that. And so an example of that would be like day guest passes, right? Mm-hmm. Are those offered anymore?
No.
So why?
It's too hard to mitigate the risk associated with the individuals using the amenity.
So to sum it up, there was poor behavior.
Yes.
And as a result of that, we've foregone the cash that we get from that to subsidize the amenity because it wasn't worth it.
Not worth it.
So we learned something, right? Mm-hmm. Made a rational decision based on what we experienced.
Based on the evidence, yeah.
So you look at the club, and what I see is a community, right? There's life here. And so this morning, as I was going through my emails, the base is pumping because water aerobics is going on. And basically the pool is full. Mm-hmm. And that's great. It's awesome. The whole goal of the clubhouse was to create a gathering point, a place for neighbors to meet each other, recreate, presumptively most of our residents don't know a whole lot of people when they move here.
Right.
So it gives them a place to go, right? We've got a bar and a grill, and we've got liquor now, and we've from yoga to liquor to water aerobics. We have a good solid offering. We certainly like I'll pick on the bocce courts, right? Like I'm yet to see anyone play bocce. I don't know how much we spend on those damn things, but I know it. If they went away today, no one would care.
I don't think so.
Dog park. We knew it was big, right? We spent a lot of money on the dog park to start. We spent a lot of money on phase 2 of the dog park. It's money well spent. People use it. It's serving our purposes, because at the end of the day, we want to give people a community that ties into our marketing. We want people to have good food and beverage. We stack up the losses on a monthly basis in that category as well. I look at it as our marketing budget. And so what's important, where I would be disappointed is if we were spending the money and it wasn't getting used. It's not what we're seeing. And so I think that the future, we've always assumed that there's some form of second amenity in Jasper. There will be a max load, if you will, on J Club. So what do you want more of, because it works? And what do you need less of? And so, picket and bocce is like a super easy one, right? It's like, okay, no one does it. So we won't have any more bocce courts. You gonna put another dog park in? Well, sure. Makes perfect sense, right? We know it gets used. The workout room.
Fitness center's a big one, yeah.
We know it gets used. The fun part, because technology is a double-edged sword, but with the Brevo app and people coming in and out, I mean, we have the analytics on this stuff. It's not just my eyes or your eyes seeing what's going on. We have the facts. Pools have been underwhelming. I mean, yeah, our pool gets busy. There's no reason to have 2 pools as far as I can see. Maybe it should have been 2 pools, meaning in 2 facilities.
Maybe.
Right? So we'll take the big pool and make a skate park.
Isn't that what Stuart said last time too?
Probably going to get in trouble for that one. But at the end of the day, we made our best guess, and here we are, and we've learned a lot. So the thing that I'll be looking for, back to anticipating, is we approach that like 650 break even number. We know it's in there. Can this club, because it depends on how people use it. Can it support 1,200 residents? Can it support 1,600? My best guess is it's in between those 2 goalposts, depending on overcrowding and how it feels, how it lives. And so in order to add the next amenity, we probably would start 3 to 4 years in advance of needing it. So that's why I'm pointing at 650 and saying, okay, that's on the low end of 50% utilization. We better start planning for number 2. The flip side of this whole conversation, and this has been very consistent throughout my career, people don't want to have to pay a nickel more than they have to for anything. I don't blame them. And now with inflation, of course, that stuff gets magnified. So it goes back to use. If the recreational use and the programming is something that the people want, they're going to use it. They're going to pay their money. We want to use our experience to find that balance as best we can in phase 2. Natural amenities. We have an opportunity coming in the future here with connectivity to trails, because the town, the city, and the county bought Glassford Hill. We know that our open space dedication to the town of Prescott Valley when we build Jasper Phase 4 is going to be much larger than we anticipated when we got approved in 2014. Is there an opportunity there? People might say, what are you talking about? Well, there's a flat pad right now in Jasper Phase 3 in J8 that is a trailhead.
Yep.
So we haven't built that yet. Why? Lack of absorption, tight on the money side of things. So that's another opportunity that I don't feel like we've been able to drive that opportunity, maximize that opportunity. And a lot of that will have to do with the master plan that comes forth for the quote unquote state park that's going to be managed locally by the local governments. But we would certainly want to connect into their master plan.
Makes sense.
Via phase 4 to the max extent possible, creating an amenity for our residents and frankly, maximizing the amenity for the residents of the town of Prescott Valley, but even bigger than that, Central Yavapai County. Someone comes over here from Prescott or Chino Valley and they want to go hiking or biking or whatever. I think that's great.
That's the spot where they do it.
Yeah. It's cheap entertainment. It's healthy. And when you really stop to think about it, why do people move to Central Yavapai County? Great weather.
Active lifestyle.
It's always sunny, right? It's a great life. And so we clearly need to maximize that opportunity for Jasper, which then has a secondary benefit, maximizing it for Central Yavapai County. Just like someone from Jasper can pop over to a trailhead on the Peavine Trail or go to Thumb Butte. You get variety. So it's things like that as we move forward. I think that the number one thing, we are actively working on the commercial at the traffic interchange. And when I say that, at the Granite Dells traffic interchange. And so things are going to start leaking out. So I don't mind saying that, at some point in the not so distant future, there'll be a grocery anchored neighborhood center at Granite Dells Parkway and 89A, south of 89A. Well, it would really not be great to live in Jasper and have to go out to Glassford Hill, up to 89A,
Right,
over to
all
Granite
the way
Dells
around.
Parkway. So we are engineering a solution to that to phase Jasper Parkway extension through the north end of Jasper so that we can link up Jasper and the Dells. And so that folks that live here can conveniently go to that commercial center. There is absolutely no doubt so no one has to wonder. We own the land. There's a profit motive in it. We want people to be able to shop at our center.
Right.
So, but we're at a point now where we have a letter from Fry's, and we're working through master infrastructure with the city of Prescott because that land is in the city of Prescott, and so a big opportunity that's sitting on my desk right now is working through that commercial opportunity that will add value for everyone. How fast does that happen? That'll be the next question, right? Gee, I'd love to see a store there open in 2026. It's not going to happen. I think there's an outside shot at 2027. I think it's there by 2028. So 27, 28, I think it's there. I think there's connectivity. And I think that, it will be convenient to go to the store and the other retailers, that the co-tenancy that naturally happens in a center like that will add value to our residents' life because they'll have convenient options and it's growth in our business. So that's exciting. And I look forward to actually accomplishing what I just described, because I think it'll have a very positive effect on values. So, existing residents I hope they make money on the deal. I think that it will be great for our absorption and our finances. And in this case, we're talking about City of Prescott, so it'll be great for them because it'll drive more sales tax revenues.
Absolutely.
So back to that $240 million, 80% of it is coming from sales tax.
We didn't have talking about commercial on the agenda for today, so that was a nice little nugget.
You can tell that
added.
I don't, number one, I don't have my cheaters, so I can't read the agenda. Number two, I don't really feel comfortable. It kind of trips me up. I do better just winging it.
You did fantastic. And I just bullet stuff and we go from there. Maybe we need our producer to do cue cards or something for the future.
Or at least wake up and act like he's paying attention.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jason, for your time. As always, appreciate the update and look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you.
All right.